Alright, let's get straight to it. The biggest war in One Piece. The one that's been brewing for almost 1,000 years? It's not pirates versus the world government. That's the sideshow, the thing they want you to watch, while the real war, the main event, is happening behind the curtain. And I'm here to tell you that this main event is basically a cosmic family conflict that's tearing the world apart. And devil fruits? Forget everything you think you know. They're not just cool superpowers that make you sink like a rock. That's not the whole story. My theory is this: they're not gifts. They're prisons. I believe that before the Void Century, two primordial cosmic twin entities were locked in a fight so huge it was about to delete reality itself. So, to save everything, some ancient civilization trapped their essences inside the first ever devil fruits. This is it. This is the theory that connects everything. I'm going to show you how the entire 800-year conflict between freedom and control is just the latest round in a fight between these two sealed beings. We're connecting the sun god Nika, the shadowy king Imu, the origin of devil fruits, and the Void Century. Because my theory states that Luffy and Imu aren't just enemies. They're two halves of a whole that got split up, and their final battle isn't starting a new war. It's the explosive finale to a very, very old one. To understand my theory, you have to see the One Piece world for what it is. A stage built on a mountain of lies. On the surface, it's simple. A great pirate era, treasure hunts, adventure. And the world government, this global superpower playing hall monitor with their marines. This is the official story they sell you. Pirates equals bad, selfish chaos. World government equals good, absolute justice. And for hundreds of chapters, we go along with it. The Straw Hats are just the good pirates fighting a few bad apples in a mostly okay system. But Oda keeps showing us the cracks in that story. He keeps pointing to the foundational mysteries that prove the whole thing is rigged. First, Exhibit A, the Void Century. A full 100-year chunk of history from 800 years ago is just gone, deleted. Researching it gets you erased. You have to ask, what could possibly be so dangerous that the world government would commit genocide to keep it a secret? The only clues are the poneglyphs, these indestructible road signs left behind by the very people they wiped out. Then you've got the Will of D, that little initial that pops up with all the biggest troublemakers. Gold D. Roger, Monkey D. Luffy, Marshall D. Teach. Even the Five Elders call them the sworn enemies of the gods. These people are walking hurricanes who just so happen to find themselves at the center of every revolution. What is this will, and how does it plug into that century everyone forgot? And finally, the biggest mystery, the devil fruits. They give you godlike powers, but take away your doggy paddle skills. They're the core power system, yet nobody, and I mean nobody, knows where they come from. Dr. Vegapunk, the smartest guy in the room, has a theory that they're born from human wishes, which is a cool, poetic idea, but it feels like half the answer. If they're born from dreams, why are they called devil fruits? Why does the ocean itself hate them so much it tries to drown you? These aren't separate puzzles. The Void Century, the Will of D, and Devil Fruits are all part of the same picture. And it all leads me to one question. Is the war we see the real war? Or is it just a puppet show for a much older, much bigger cosmic grudge match? Here's where my theory really kicks off. Stop thinking of devil fruits as power-ups. Start thinking of them as what I believe they are: prisons. Let's take Vegapunk's idea. He says fruits come from desire. Someone wishes they could control fire, and poof, the Mera Mera no Mi exists. But Vegapunk himself calls this unnatural. He says because these powers aren't natural, the sea, as the embodiment of nature, rejects them. This is a massive clue. The weakness isn't just a game mechanic, it's a statement. These powers are foreign invaders. They don't belong in this world. Now, let's push that idea. What if it's not just a desire in the fruit, but a consciousness? A will so powerful that after death, it just refused to fade away? What if that will latched onto a fruit, waiting for a new body to hijack? This is where the idea that a devil fruit has its own will becomes critical. We see it with zone types. In chapter 1044, the 5 elders drop that massive bombshell about Luffy's fruit. It's not the Gum Gum fruit, it's the mythical zone model Nika. They literally say zone fruits have a will of their own. They complain that for 800 years, the fruit has been actively avoiding them, like it has a mind of its own, waiting for the right person, waiting for Joy Boy to come back. And it's not just Luffy's. Look at the jailer beasts in Impel Down. They're awakened zones, but their personalities are gone, totally overwritten by the animal will of the fruit. Or Chopper's monster point before he figured out how to control it. He wasn't in the driver's seat, the fruit was. So yeah, that changes everything. When you eat a devil fruit, you're not just getting a superpower. You're signing up to be the new host for a lingering consciousness. The power is the bait. The fruit isn't the power, it's the cell. And the whole death and rebirth cycle is just the process of passing that inmate from one warden to the next. This also perfectly explains the name devil fruits. It's propaganda, probably cooked up by the world government's PR department way back when. They demonize the powers to scare people off and hide their true origin. An origin tied directly to their mortal enemies, the Great Kingdom. They turned a source of freedom into a deal with the devil. If devil fruits are prisons for wills, then the most powerful fruits must contain the most powerful wills. This brings us to the 2 most important inmates in the whole system, the Sun God of Freedom and the Shadow King of Control. If devil fruits are prisons, then the human fruit, model Nika, and whatever freaky power Imu is using are the Supermax penitentiaries. These are the cells holding the 2 primordial wills that started this whole mess. They are the cells for the cosmic twins. First, let's talk about the inmate fighting for freedom, Nika. Before Wano, Nika was just a campfire story for slaves about a warrior of liberation who brought freedom and laughter with his magical drums. The Shandorians prayed to a sun god. Who's Who heard the legend in a top security prison. Nika was basically the personification of hope. Then, bam, we find out the myth is real. The Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika, is the legend in fruit form. The Gorosei call its ability the most ridiculous power in the world. It gives its user a rubbery body and the freedom to fight in any goofy, cartoonish way they can imagine, putting smiles on people's faces. When Luffy awakens it, he doesn't just get stronger, he becomes the myth. He's laughing his head off, his heart is banging out the drums of liberation, and he's spreading pure, joyful chaos. But here's the crucial part of my theory. Luffy is not Nika. Just like Joy Boy wasn't Nika. They are the inheritors of Nika's will. They're the vessels. The will sealed inside the fruit chooses them, looking for people who share its crazy dream of total freedom. Joy Boy was the first one we know of. After he lost, the Nika will went dormant for 800 years, until it found a new champion in some kid from East Blue who just wanted to be the freest guy on the sea. Now, on the other side of the coin, you have Nika's polar opposite. For every sun, there's a black hole. For Nika's boundless freedom, there has to be his twin, the embodiment of absolute control. Imu. And then you have Imu, who is basically Nika's goth twin who hates everything. Nika is a legend. Imu is a secret that gets you vaporized. Nika's power is laughter. Imu's power is silent, terrifying annihilation. Imu sits on the empty throne, ruling the world from the dark as its true and only king. And for all we know, Imu is immortal and has been around since the Void Century. We've only seen glimpses of Imu's power, and every single one has been pants-wettingly terrifying. We saw Imu just casually delete the island of Lulusia from the map. Sabo saw Imu transform into a giant shadowy monster with a mouthful of daggers that literally ate his fire. I believe Imu's power is what lets them control the 5 elders, whose own monster forms seem to kneel to Imu not out of respect, but out of servitude. They look less like followers and more like puppets on a string. People guess Imu's power could be a mythical Umibozu, a sea demon, or even a primordial demon fruit that lets the user literally literally enslave others. That would fit perfectly with the Gorosei's weird loyalty. Whatever the fruit is called, its nature is obvious. It's a power of total subjugation. Where Nika's fruit gives its user limitless freedom, Imu's power seems to suck the freedom out of everyone else. Where Nika's will is passed down, Imu's will seems to have permanently fused with its original user, creating one undying monster of control. So there they are, my two primary inmates. Nika, the spirit of freedom, passed down through heroes, and Imu, the spirit of control, locked into one lonely king. Two opposite wills in a cosmic boxing match that started long before Chapter 1. Okay, so let's lay it all out. We have our twin entities, Nika and Imu. We have their prison cells, the devil fruits. And we have the 800-year-old crime scene, the Void Century. So what the hell happened? What was the original sin that got these two forces locked up? Here's what I think went down. Long before the Void Century, in a mythological age, Nika and Imu weren't enemies. They were two sides of the same coin. Maybe literal twins. Maybe a single god that split in two. Together, they were balance, freedom and control, chaos and order, yin and yang. But then they had a falling out. A big one. Maybe they fought over the last slice of pizza. I don't know. The reason doesn't matter as much as the result. Their fight was a full-blown catastrophe. They weren't fighting with fists. They were fighting with the laws of physics, tearing reality apart at the seams. The world just couldn't handle it. So an ancient advanced civilization, probably the Great Kingdom, maybe even an older moon race, made an impossible call. They knew they couldn't kill these things. They were fundamental forces, so they did the only thing they could. They imprisoned them. Using some lost, crazy technology, they performed cosmic surgery. They separated the entities and sealed their consciousness inside physical objects. The very first devil fruits. The wills of Nika and Imu were locked in two super powerful fruits. Other, lesser fragments and wills were sealed in the other fruits we see today. This act saved the world, but it also introduced this unnatural power into it, this devil that the sea would forever reject. Now jump forward to the years just before the Void Century. The Great Kingdom, a society all about freedom and awesome tech, is running the world, and a man named Joy Boy finds the fruit with Nika's will inside. He eats it, becomes the first human to inherit the will of freedom, and becomes a global icon of liberation. Meanwhile, 20 other kingdoms are giving the Great Kingdom the side eye. They're scared of their tech and their ideals. And leading this coalition is a man named Nerona Imu. He, or someone in his circle, finds the other fruit, the prison for the entity of control. And Imu doesn't just host the power, he fuses with it, becoming an immortal monster of absolute control. The Void Century War wasn't just about politics. It was the first proxy war between the sealed twins. It was Joy Boy, champion of Nika's freedom, versus Imu, the avatar of total control. And in round 1, Control won. Joy Boy lost. The Great Kingdom was crushed. Imu and his buddies created the world government, and the first thing they did was delete the browser history of the entire world. They couldn't risk anyone finding out about their power, or their cosmic rival. They couldn't risk another Joy Boy popping up. So they erased 100 years and started an 800-year reign of boring, suffocating order. A reign built on the victory of one twin over the other. Okay, let's hit pause, because I know that's a lot. The idea that devil fruits are jails and this 800-year war is just a cosmic family drama, it changes how you see everything. What do you think? Am I crazy? Or does this actually line up with the clues Oda's been dropping? Drop your best theories in the comments. And hey, if you're enjoying this descent into my madness, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we're about to get into the most tragic part of this whole theory. So far, we've talked about Nika and Imu as abstract concepts, but great stories are about emotion, and the emotional fuel for this 1000-year war is, in my opinion, one of the most basic and destructive human emotions there is. Think about Imu's life. In a word, it sucks. Imu got everything the entity of control wanted. Immortality, absolute power, total world domination. He's a literal god king. But that victory cost him everything else. He is completely, devastatingly alone. For Imu, immortality isn't a superpower, it's a curse. He's stuck, unchanging, trapped in a silent castle, no friends, no family, just work. He's not a man anymore. He's the living embodiment of control. For 800 years, he has watched the world from the shadows, a lonely monarch on a throne of secrets. Now, compare that to the fate of his twin, Nika. Nika's will doesn't grant immortality, it grants something way better: reincarnation. The sun god's will gets to live on, passed from one fun-loving hero to the next. The Nika fruit finds a user with a matching spirit and starts the party all over again. It found Joy Boy, a legendary hero, and 800 years later, it finds Monkey D. Luffy, a kid with an unbreakable will and a laugh that can literally reshape the world. And what happens to these hosts? They are loved. Joy Boy was so beloved, he made promises to entire species. Luffy, this supposed criminal, collects friends like Pokémon. Entire kingdoms want to be his ally. People are drawn to his energy, his laughter, his freedom. He's a walking party in a world that desperately needs one. Now, put yourself in Imu's stupid, pointy shoes. For 800 lonely years, you've sat on your throne. You have everything, but you have nothing. And you have to watch from your gilded cage as the spirit of your hated twin gets reborn, over and over, into these vibrant, joyful champions who steal the hearts of the very world you rule. You see statues of Nika. You hear whispers of his return. You see Luffy's wanted poster, not with a scowl, but with that stupid, goofy Gear 5 grin, the very face of the freedom you hate. This isn't just politics for Imu. It's personal. It's the universe screaming that no matter what he does, the world will always choose freedom. It will always choose Nika. This is a sibling rivalry on a global scale. Why does he get all the friends? Why does everyone love him and only fear me? This jealousy explains so much of Imu's weird behavior. The obsession with Nefertari Lily, the queen who ghosted the world government. Was she an ally of Joy Boy? A lover, maybe? That would make her betrayal personal, and explain why Imu is so fixated on her descendant, Vivi. His rage at Luffy's wanted poster isn't just a king mad at a pirate, it's a lonely brother's bitter envy. The twins were split, creating an imbalance. Imu got all the power, but Nika got all the love. And that's a score that can only be settled with one last, world-shattering fight. So here we are, rocketing towards the end of One Piece, and it's obvious the final boss is Luffy versus Imu. But based on my theory, we can see this fight for what it truly is. It's not another boss battle. It's not just a pirate fighting a king. It is the inevitable, cataclysmic finale of an 800-year-old proxy war and a cosmic conflict that started before written history. It's the final showdown between freedom and control. It's reincarnation versus immortality. It is the ultimate clash of joy versus fear. Luffy, the current vessel for Nika's will, is on a collision course with Imu. But my theory leaves us with one final, crazy question. The whole premise was that Nika and Imu were two halves of a whole that were never meant to be separated. Their first fight almost broke reality. So what happens when they finally meet again? Will their final clash be the thing that shatters the world for good? Or is there another path? Could the true end of One Piece not be about one twin winning, but about them being made whole again? Could Luffy's real mission not be to destroy Imu, but to save him, and in doing so, finally bring balance to the world? My Nika and Imu twin theory is a big swing, I know. But it's one of the only ones that stitches together all the series' biggest mysteries into one single story. The Void Century, Devil Fruits, the Final War, it all comes back to these two forces. But that's just my take. What do you think? Am I on to the secret of the One Piece? Or is the truth even crazier than this? Let me know your theories down in the comments. What happens when Luffy and Imu finally face off? Total annihilation? or the dawn of a new world where freedom and control can finally stop fighting and just, get along. Thanks for watching.